Hey, hello, this is Academy of Tone number 61. That magic number. This is my beloved 1961 Stratocaster, and this episode is all about that guitar that I bought when I was 17. We moved the studio, so this is the very first episode in the new studio. Actually, kind of 5 minutes before we go live. We had all the cables locked in. I hope everything is stable and cool for you. Yeah, I'm very excited with this new place because we are now down. We don't have to sweat that much, and this is way more relaxed, and it's not lifting the gear up in the third floor. Okay, what is the story about my 1961 Strat? When I was 17, I wanted a vintage Strat that is a guitar that is better than any guitars that I had before. I had, back in the days, I had Squier GV series 3 pieces, like 1 maple neck and 2 rosewood necks, which were kind of copies of Fender 1962 Stratocasters. And I wanted that real deal Strat tone that I heard on that beautiful red Gary Moore Strat that he was using in the mid-80s. And that sound that I heard from Gary Moore on the Corridors of Power album, and I saw a live concert on German television, Rockpalast, that changed my mind. That was the day where I decided, man, I need a real old Strat. There must be something in that. And a friend of mine who is a guitar luthier, who actually is from from Saarbrücken, my hometown, who moved to North Germany to number 1 to repair guitars over there, and then finally moved to California and now works at Fender in the custom shop building the Eric Johnson signature model, back in the days recommended me to buy a real 1961 Stratocaster. And I was selling all my Squiers because I needed the money, and I bought this particular guitar. And today's question is, what makes this guitar so special? Besides, it's my guitar and I played it all my life, but there's some magic in that guitar. And maybe we can find out by analyzing a few different aspects when we look at tone, at playability, at neck shape, at pickups, at setups. We will have a long 1-hour interview with Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show, and he is another Strat nerd. And we go very interestingly into many details. So this is the second part of today's episode. But on the first part, I want to show you first the guitar, the 61, and then I want to show you a real 61 from a friend of mine that is like all mint. I want to show you the BluGuitar, Masterbuilt 61, and I want to show you my mint condition 64 and the vintage signature guitar. So, and that's basically all kind of to get a feel for what is so special for me on that guitar. Well, that's my personal taste, and for me, that thing is, of course, something that talks to me. If you are a different person with a different style, then you might like other qualities. For me, the point is, I still love that guitar, and I haven't bought the wrong guitar back in the days because I still gig with that. On the other side, it is also modified in a way that I can do my thing. And what we will see is I can do my thing basically on all the guitars that are here, but I can do my thing maybe even better on the ones that have the modifications that I've done to this one, like the vintage or the BluGuitar, which doesn't mean that the other Fenders here, the real deal 64 and the real deal 61 are not great guitars. They are great guitars, but they have slightly different character, and they have, well, maybe a slightly different sound. Okay, the first thing when I look in Stratocasters is always how does the bridge pickup sound? Is the bridge pickup nasty, or is it just right, having the twang and doing what I call the O? And this is what you can hear. So this is bridge position, no modifications besides just that little treble bleed. But this is my O. Now I switch to the neck. And there's all the clarity that I want. And there's like... Okay, for those who want to know my setup and settings, it's easy. Straight into the amp 1. The amp 1 uses my little Boss DD2 delay, just with slightly repeat and the reverb from the amp 1. That's all. And I'm using the vintage channel on gain on 10, master on 5, 5 for bass, 5 for middle, and 5 for treble. On my beloved Stack 1970 with slightly less edge here, so it's a bit smoother than the middle position. Well, 1030, 11-ish. That's the setting. So there is no magic here. So that's first that is the character of the bridge pickup. And if that has the O, I can deal with the guitar. If that has the yeah, I cannot deal with the guitar. So all the guitars that I have in my collection have that O, period. If there's a guitar that makes another vocal noise, I don't like it, so I don't have it. That's my criteria. And on the other hand, what I like to get a balanced sound of that one guitar is I have to switch from the neck position to the bridge position. So as you can see, I can go seamless between all my pickups, even in the middle position. And this is the first secret on that guitar. This middle position pickup is not the original one. It has been changed 30 years ago, 20, whatever. And this is a reverse wound, reverse polarity pickup. So I have a 5-way switch, and the in-between position 2 and 4 is humless because it's phase cancellation of hum. So hum, quiet, and hum, quiet, hum. So that's my dummy coil, and my dummy coil reduces the hum on this position and that position. And this is basically all I do about hum, because as you know, and if you know me, I play that guitar for any gig with any kind of gain, from no gain to high gain. And I can do it with pedals, I can do it with amps, with different channels. This gives me the whole range that I need on stage. There's nothing wrong about having other guitars, like Les Pauls, like you name it, ESPs, and I love them all. But you know, today is the beautiful day of that beautiful guitar. It's kind of a birthday. And by the way, talking birthdays, today is the birthday of Gully. Gully is the bass player and singer in my Rock Anarchy. And yeah, what a great day. And talking about birthdays, tomorrow is the birthday of Jeff Beck. He will turn 77 tomorrow. And this month, many other guys that I know have birthdays, like Raoul Walton, blah, blah, blah. So check it out on Facebook. Be aware that there's a bunch of birthdays coming on. Yeah, 61 is a great year, not only for Stratocasters, also for people that I know. Okay, the next thing that is important for me is I do bends like that's a pretty wide bend. I think it's a fourth, a quarter, yeah, something like that. And this requires like a on a Strat with a vintage radius, you can get in trouble to do that sometimes, you know. So I have kind of a slightly different radius in the upper range, just to make that possible. People call that compound radius. So there's a vintage radius on the lower frets, and then it's getting a little flatter on the top range to allow me the bending. I still love that vintage radius down here. It feels different. And I try to keep as much of the vintage radius as possible, but I want to do the bend. So I even don't know what's the radius up here because I filed it to my needs. So, I mean, when I hear the note get stuck, bang, it's like, okay, I have that sandpaper, very high, what is it, grains, 1000, and then just polish that and make that note speak. Yeah, this is kind of the stuff that I do. And then I use the 3 springs. I have this angle, so this has a bit more tension on the low E string because I believe, which is not proven, that there's more tension there than on the low strings than on the high strings, so I thought that should be compensated. Anyway, it works. Maybe it works in other ways as well, but that's the way I do it. And I have my tremolo floating. That's a big thing. I was discussing with Mick Taylor, and you can see that he has some other way. He has... Anyway, we discuss this later. You will see this later in this episode. Okay, so let's listen to that guitar one more time, and then... Okay, this is a brand new BluGuitar 61 Masterbuilt. So. Yeah, so do you hear any difference? Well, if I pay big attention to it, yes, I do. But does it matter? Maybe, maybe not. I can do my thing and I feel very much home. The big difference is this is a brand new guitar that has seen some aging, but it has not been played as many gigs and years like my beloved original 61 Fender Strat. But I'm so happy that I have a guitar with the same recipe that I can, pick up, and which is not worth that kind of money, which I can have and fly with, and it's just a killer instrument, So I'm happy that I have a spare guitar or a second guitar that actually is almost as good. So. Yeah, beautiful instrument, and it's brand new. Okay, just to compare that to another instrument in a different price range, which is my Hendrix gigging guitar, having the same recipe with the dummy coil and the treble bleed. I can do my thing. Maybe you can hear it's not 100% at the same level. Of course not, because this is a lot cheaper, but it's, to me, it's unbelievable to get an instrument of that quality which I can use to do my thing at that price point. So for me, all good. Now, this is a mint condition 1961 all original Strat. As you can see, there's a three-way selector switch, the original one. There is everything original. This guitar belongs to a friend of mine, and it's a killer guitar. If you plug it in. Killer instrument. Of course, it's missing my treble bleed. So therefore, when I reduce the volume here, it's not as sparkly, it's not as clean, it doesn't clean up as much as my original one. It would though, if I would do the modification, but this is all original and nobody would change that guitar, even not myself. Such a clean 61, yeah, is rare. And look at the back of the neck, it's kind of a little bird's eye maple. Here you can see this. Yeah, sparkle. I have a sip of my sparkle water. So, funny, this guitar has a very, very similar neck shape to my original, to mine. If you compare that, yeah, just, you know, rub the neck a little bit and here you can feel it's probably the same guy who shaped the necks. It's very, very similar. And on the one hand, I got used to that, and on the other hand, I think the 61 has a not too thick neck profile, which I personally like, maybe because I'm so familiar with that shape and I played it all my life. And I got used to that, but on the other hand, it kind of to suit my hands, so something is right there. You know, if I had found a better guitar than my 61, I would play that one, but it's still the reference to me. See Mr. Johnson, Sean Pierce Johnson from California, from where's that beach? Hey, I have to visit you after next NAMM. Was so cool to hang out with him. Yeah. Okay. What is I saying? Always love the discoloration that happens around the headstock decal on old Strats. Yeah, that's true. And here on this one you can see, and it's turned into brownish. But on the other hand, the serial numbers or the patent numbers disappeared, and that's the same with mine as well. Sean Pierce, cool. Holy, yeah. Max Carton is here, Aaron Short is here. Hey, nice to see you all tonight. Hello, great to see you. I'm looking forward to meet you all guys in person again. Laguna Beach, here we go. Please come by anytime. And hey, sure, I already booked the place for the NAMM show. I will stay there the week after, so I come and hang with you. Very cool. Nice, yeah. By the way, now we have summer here in Germany, which is cool, so I can wear my short pants. On the other hand is, in January, Germany is frozen. And then going to California, seat of some sun is killer. Anyway, David Mattei. Hi Thomas, which strings do you use on your 61 Strat? Well, I use Ernie Ball Hybrid Slinky on my Strat, which is a 9-46 set that combines the 9s for the high strings, like E, B, and G string, and then like 10s on the lower strings, like D and A and the big E string. Wait a minute. So let me put that down for a second. Before, I will make sure I bring the Amp X. Yes, that's the time. Sean, yeah, that's good, I know. By the way, now to hear something completely different, well, completely, we are still in the Strat territory. I got my 64 Strat here, and this thing is also mint. 3-way switch, original. The only thing that I changed is the frets to make it a bit better playable for me. Yeah, as you can hear, also a very nice guitar, good weight, blah, blah, blah. The whole 9 yards, but it doesn't have that much twang as the other one. Let me bring you back the 61, my 61, and then you know what I mean. If you don't hear any difference, it's good for you. I do, and that makes the difference. I see more questions here. Let me see the questions. I purchased a Mercury edition last year, and I love everything about it. Wow! Now my friends are envious of my setup. Okay, love, cool. Daytona, after high position, slightly scalloped or worn away. This is, I guess, worn away because I have pictures of that guitar with me being 17 and all the clay dots were kind of bright and shiny, like this one that I don't touch. Maybe that watch, you know, F is an ugly note. I don't play that much. It's an E guitar, you know, electric guitar, an E guitar. There's an E everywhere, and as an E guitarist, I never play an F. So that is untouched, kind of. And I'm sweating a lot, this is why it's so dirty, and I can tell that the fretboard, yeah, you know, here these dots are washed out. I'm not taking any stuff out of my fretboard because it kind of already shrunken due to the fact that I put on new frets and my fingers. So I try to keep it as intact as possible. And I even had steel frets for a while, but even those I was wearing out, and now I'm back on the 6105 frets. Anyway, more questions here. Klaus Heaven. Hi Thomas, which cables do you use? Greetings from Germany. At the moment I'm using this Klotz whatever cable. No, it's a cordial cable, sorry. What is the number here? GGK175. I have another one which I actually like, maybe even better because it's longer, which is the Bonamassa signature cable. Well, there's some things about Joe Bonamassa that are great. For instance, the cables. Some songs I like, but I'm not 125% Bonamassa fan. I like the guy, personally, but I like his cable, and I like a few songs, and I respect him as a killer player. Yeah, anyway, so that's another great cable, and I have Flex cable, and I have whatever. Tons of cable. We make a cable episode, I promise you. I have too many cables. Can you play your Fender with the Iridium? I could, if this helps everybody, yeah. Now that is a Strat bridge pickup. Yeah, that is a Strat pickup. Sean, you are right. This is the difference. This pickup here, that bridge pickup, that can kill. I mean, if you... That is a Strat bridge pickup. Yeah, Yeah, it's very big and defined, as Max Kahn said. Phil Crawford, would be great to hear some Blue Hendrix on the Iridium. Okay, guys, I tried the Iridium, even though I'm a big fan of the amp, but not with that guitar. But so you can hear it, and then maybe you know why I'm a big fan with humbuckers on the Iridium and not so much on my Strat. So here goes the guitar input, and here comes this speaker output. And do I see where the output is? I should. Here we go. So let's turn that like here, and I'm similar settings. I'm using full gain I'm using master somewhere, boosts, okay, and let me see where we are. Mids on 5, bass on 5, and yeah, and then little boost and some reverb, and here we go. This is in preset mode. Let me switch it back to the standard mode, which means I make a full reset now. Okay, yeah, baby. So now clean. Okay, and then I go to the vintage channel. Yeah, so you heard that Strat on the Iridium. Maybe you like it better. I like the Mercury better. Anyway, it's my taste, and tastes are different. Can you play some Hendrix? Yeah, let's call that Hendrix, what I just played. David Matei, hey Thomas, do you like HSS Strats too? Yes, I do, but I miss that bridge pickup, you know, as you could hear, especially here on my Mercury, with that's beautiful, whatever, actually all the channels and my bridge, of course it's my amp, I designed the amp with that guitar in mind to make me happy first. So. That's my world. It's, I would call that vintagier. Well, I'm on the vintage channel on both amps now. I call that, I don't know, it's that smoky. Well, there's an A on that guitar everywhere. Okay, what other questions do we have? Pomsteff, hi Thomas, how is your string action on the 12th Strat? Well, I can put my 1.5 millimeter plectrum underneath it, maybe. Can the camera show something like that? I mean, it's not, it is not too high, it's not too low. Yeah, I need to measure. Maybe I do that for you later, but I don't have a scale for that, but I should. Phil Crawford, thanks Thomas, looks like I'll have to get both. Yeah, I'm, you know, me and the Strat talking Mercury in heaven, and I just played a gig last Saturday, and it's like, man, I was missing anything. My combination, there's nothing I want more. At this point, I found my sound, I'm happy, it's all there. And even the most expensive vintage amps in my collection, the other day, I was checking reverb again, because moving house, you know, you have this one in the hand and you move that one and then you move the black flag. Hey, if you look at prices, the GTM 45 that I own now goes, the same model, the same year, goes for 19,000 whatever dollars, euros or something. Anyway, it's way too much for such an amp. And I can A/B that, as I've done in other episodes, and it's like, I mean, that amp is great, but the amp one, I'm not missing anything. And yeah, that's my point. Playing gigs with the amp one, done. Okay, other questions. Have you considered cleaning that guitar? Well, yes and no. If you look very closely over the years, you can see that I cleaned that guitar a few times. And I do it in bits and pieces once in a while. But it came to a point where I don't dare to clean it. Like, then it would lose something. I kind of like it a little bit dirty. I mean, it's all natural. I don't put any dust on that. I have to do this on the brand new ones, which is actually a challenge to get, a new guitar and and copy the dirt. My niece actually has done that, Leonie, and we got a signature for that from a very famous German comedian, Otto Walkes, for Leonie and Thomas. And this was the first time she ever relicked a guitar, and I think it's beautiful. She's got talent, but I mean, she always has done killer paintings and art, and she has a feel for that. But if you clean that guitar, well, it's a habit not to clean it too much. So I stick with that. Oh, and by the way, just turning around, if you don't have your summer shirt, we do have the Amp1 shirt, of course, from our web store. Can you see me? Can you see the shirt? That's pretty cool. And we have the Academy of Tone livestream t-shirt, which is pretty cool. Besides the one shirt, that is also pretty cool. Also often worn by my dear friend Phil X, who is a great guy. And I was having so much fun. I had so much fun playing with him. Killer guitar player and killer singer, and well, killer is the right word for anything. Okay, cleaning the guitar we talked about. Hello Thomas, will you ever do a pedal lineup? So if so, what would you make? Preamp overdrives? Well, pedal lineup, I already did some pedals with a company called X-Vive. There's the Golden Brownie, there is the Dynarock, there is the Sweet Leo, and the reason why I'm not doing BluGuitar pedals is because it's all in the Amp1. I mean, that's a proper amp, and if you want to combine it with extra pedals, hey, that's what I'm doing myself on my big pedal board, having fun with other pedals because they give you different flavors. But I wouldn't sell my preamp channels as pedals for several reasons. One is then maybe somebody finds out what I'm doing, which I don't want, because this amp is more dynamic than any pedal on the planet, period. I take any challenge. If you have one that is more dynamic, please send the pedal to me. I make an A/B, and if it's really good, I can learn from that pedal. If not, I stay the winner, because the preamp section here is non-tube, so it could be easily done in a pedal, but I don't want to give away my secrets that took me all my life to get there. Anyway, the other, what was the question? Okay, pedals, yeah, and hey, the Amp 1 is a nice pedal amp, so there is your pedal. It's your pedal, it's your amp, it's your reverb, it's everything in a super lightweight box, 2 pounds, blah blah blah, and international, voltage 90 to 260. Any power outlet on this planet will make this amp sound as it does right now, or this one. Okay, will you be at Summer NAMM? No, Aaron. I was thinking about going there, but first, the traveling is still not so nice with the COVID thing. Having international flights with probably wearing masks over 11 hours, and then another one to Nashville, and then, I skip all these shows. I'll be at Winter NAMM. So that's NAMM is NAMM, and I love NAMM, and I love trade shows. But I decided, you know what, give it some time so everybody is whatever vaccinated or had it, or we have a very low rate. So it makes traveling much easier. So safety and health first. So I'll be at Winter NAMM. Nick Williamson, would love to see some real low tuning tips for Iridium, such as A standard, G, etc. Just how to get custom controls and half power gain, blah blah blah. Okay, that's a super nice topic on the Iridium, and let's call it, I got some Iridium expert players that are more experienced on how low can you go, drop whatever, C, G, even A or whatever, B. I have a seven string guitar, but I would like to do this with somebody that is actually using that on stage as well, which I'm not. So that's a very nice comment and a very good topic to talk about in one of the future episodes, maybe with Money or some of my metal friends. Okay, light and loud, dynamic in one box. Yeah, correct. That is. Do we have a tip how to find the best height of the pickups? Okay, that's a good question. Put it that way. I always put the bridge pickup higher than the neck pickup. Why? Because the string energy is bigger around the neck pickup, because the excursion of the string is wider. That means more bass, that means more energy. Therefore, you can put the neck pickup further to the guitar inside, not too close to the strings. The same vibration on the string, the excursion on the bridge pickup is a lot less. Therefore, I put that point, which is the high E string, I put the bridge pickup the highest possible. Of course, not that it will touch the magnet, and I leave like a few millimeters of space, like maybe 3, 4, kind-ish. And that's the highest point of the bridge pickup. Down on the low E string, it's maybe twice the distance. So it's kind of slightly, I'm not sure if the camera can show that. If you can see, this is a lot more inwards than on this side. So, yeah. Similar on the middle pickup, but as you can see, the middle pickup is actually not that close to the strings anyhow. I like it because the combination of bridge and middle sounds a bit brighter in that way. If you put the middle closer to the strings, the in-between position gets different, and I like it that way, that it's not too high. And I'm more the solo guy with neck and bridge, and the middle is mostly used for kind of balanced rhythm tones, more cleaner stuff, maybe crunchy stuff, but not that bitey. So I got my Blackmore moments from this, and I mean, Richie is not using that at all, I guess. But I still use all the other positions as well, but maybe not as much. Talking about the neck pickup, you can see that it's not as close, but of course I try to find a way that it's balanced with the bridge pickup. And just recently I glued my scratch plate again. It has been broken, as it should, because the vintage Strat original scratch plates, they shrink, and then at this screw they always break. And the point is, when this breaks, the pickup automatically moves too close to the strings. So I always have this kind of very low. That's kind of the lowest point. So it's like the big E string here is the lowest point on that pickup, and the highest point is the thin E string on that point. So this is kind of how I deal with the whole thing. And this is in general rather, well, straight. It's a little bit closer to the strings on the top E strings. That's what I'm doing. And you get, of course, the unbalanced tone because we don't have those wound G strings anymore. You know, back in the days when this G string was still wound, the inner material was not as thick. So we all listen to Stratocasters with actually a default, because this G string is too loud by nature. Let me show you. That fucking note is always too loud, and that's a critical note too, because you usually use that to play the minor or the major third, and you know how it is. If the guitar is not in tune, it sounds shit. So that's one art, how to deal with a Stratocaster, having proper vintage pickups. It's not ideal, and you know, I mean, you probably think this guitar is the holy grail and it's ideal. You pick it up and it sounds killer. Well, it only sounds killer if you get it to the point where the defaults and the character is under your control. So this guitar is a nice guitar. It gives you a lot of feedback, but it's also a little challenge. Of course, I decided to be challenged by this guitar for the rest of my life, and I've been for the last how many years. But that's kind of a decision you have to take when you play a Strat. Do you want to have a perfect, easy Strat, or you go and have one of those vintage babies? Either one of the real deal old ones, which might be even, what's the word? I don't know the English word. Harder to tame, or one of those that have vintage specs and are a bit more balanced in a way. It's like a horse, you know. Some horses have a temperament, and so do have all Strats. Anyway, any questions? If Henning, okay, well, Pooh Ninja, if Henning does a thing this year, would you go? Maybe. I'm not sure. Do you know if he's doing one? I like to go to Henning's it's always a cool hang with all the guys there. Last time I've been there, we had a nice amp makers round with Dave Friedman. You know, I came there late night in the hotel, before the day we all met at Henning's. And who sits in the hotel? Dave. You know, it's like, hey Dave, new haircut. Oh yeah, blah blah blah. You know, that's cool. And then we talk, and this is so good. And then of course you do all the videos, but to me the talks that we have behind the scenes are even better than the one in front of the camera. But this is my pleasure. Okay, Henning, love Santa Barbara, California. Yeah, okay, sure. David Matei, you hear different sounds on a relic guitar and clean guitar. Sounds a relic guitar better to you? Yes. Oop, what's going on here? Does a relic guitar sound better to you? Yes. Actually, next week we have Oliver Hartmann, and we did an experiment with Oliver Hartmann with a guitar luthier that has done brilliant paint job on guitars. And his name is Matthias Schinderhütte, is the guy that you can see on whatever your left. In the middle you can see Oliver Hartmann, and Matthias has painted my gold top as well. Beautiful. I mean, you know, that guitar is simply beautiful. And in that episode we will talk about how the lacquer does change the tone. And Matthias is a guy that makes straight guitars or like clean guitars, and he makes distressed guitars. And we know each other, but I asked him the same question just because out of curiosity, what do you think? And he said, yes, I can agree as well. I believe that even on the cheap vintage or affordable vintage guitars, the distressing makes it a little bit more humming and alive. Maybe it's a psycho thing, maybe not, but to me, that's the way it is. Maybe that's a bit offensive to the guys who like clean guitars, but look at me. I like dirty guitars. And that, if you ask me, that's my answer. You know, I hope you don't destroy your PRSs now at home and have, you know, send them and put them behind your car and have them in the garden or whatever. Leave your beautiful guitars as they are. They have a beauty of its own, but different. Next question. The vintage sounds amazing. The signature sound amazing. Thanks. Cody Carrick. So 2020 Winter NAMM will be the Yes Amp X unveiling, right? Yes, you are right. The 92 project, why don't you clean the guitar? Serious question. Well, I answered already. If I clean it, maybe I take away the mojo. There's too much mojo, and it helps my immune system. Okay, that's all bullshit I'm talking now, but it's like, this guitar has been around the world so many times, and it has seen so many different, well, diseases, and it's been to China, and I'm sure this guitar had COVID even before it existed, so it keeps me kind of immune. That's my vaccination. And actually, have I been sick for the last years? No. And I see many people with many, you know, things, flus, coughing, shaking hands, and yeah, I have maybe a little flu once a year, but but nothing heavy. Okay, next question. You people need to get live. This is so dull. Okay, I don't not get that one. Humbucker in a Strat. How can you get a good rock tone from the bridge single kind of humbuckerish. Well, there is always the option to have a master tone control, which I do have on another guitar, which is now upstairs. You can see that guitar in Academy of Tone episode 2, because in that episode I showed this real 60 neck with a real Fender pickguard, which was my Fender number 2, with real Fender hardware, blah blah blah. And I have done 2 modifications. One is the treble bleed and the dummy coil, as in this guitar, but the second one is also to have a master tone control, so I can have a tone control on the bridge pickup. And that, if you just roll back the tone a little bit, gets you in that humbucker territory. For me, this dummy coil is kind of doing a little bit towards that direction too. Off. To me, it's a bit creamier when I engage my dummy coil, and it's just that touch which I sometimes like. So on stage I usually have the dummy coil on, engaged, so for the hum reason, but I don't mind the tonal changes that come with that dummy coil. So for me, all good. No complaints about that, because it makes it a little bit humbuckerish. So the bucker switch, how I call that, makes it buckerisher. Okay, any new ideas in the pipeline? Ideas, yes, but products? Hey, we are busy with MX. There is no time for, there's time for ideas, yes, but all our resources go into this big project now. That's how, well, David Munoz, that's how he gets his dirty tones. Yeah, okay. Mauszeiger, your guitar play is burning hot. My face color too. Yeah, maybe, well, we have summer here, and I got a convertible car, you know, top open, red head. Nothing wrong about that. Okay. That's okay. Hey guys, what's the time by now? I think we are already running late. There's my mobile. Oh yeah. What else did I wanted to say? The big thing is we will show you a killer interview that I've done just before we went live with Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show. But hey guys, tomorrow is Jeff Beck's birthday. I think he's a cool Strat guy. I'm a big fan of Jeff Beck. So maybe you listen to John. I mean, for me, listening to Jeff Beck is kind of going to the church kind of vibe. It's like once a year I listen to Jeff Beck, and that's it. And I have my precious moment of Beckishness. And yeah, I probably will do that tomorrow, maybe in my convertible car to get even red. Anyway, so a lot of people had birthdays. If you have more questions, carry on asking them. I will go in the chat later on. I'm still with you, but now I want to show you that great conversation that I had with Mick Taylor from That Pedal Show, and I see you in the next episode. Cheers, guys. Mick Taylor, the one and only. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mick Taylor, well known from That Pedal Show, but actually I know him a bit longer when he was kind of an editor for the UK magazine, Guitarist magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, I do you remember when we first met? How many years ago this was?
It must have been in the late 1990s, Thomas. It's got to be back then.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too, but I have no real exact year or memory. Um, yeah, so for me, the first question is, you know, you do that pedal show for how many years now? 4 or 5, maybe? Quite long.
Is it's actually nearly six, I
Oh
think. I
yeah,
think we're almost at 6 years. Yeah.
yeah. So, what made you start to do that pedal show, you and Dan?
It was sort of by accident, really. So I'd been working in magazines for almost 20 years by that point, and in and out of magazines, both as a staff member and as a freelance journalist. And
Right.
I'd kind of, in my career there as an employed person, I got to editor in chief of all the magazines, so Guitar Techniques, Total Guitar, and Guitarist, and had a small hand in the online side of that as well. But my interest really started to peak in video, and I really enjoyed video, and I thought that was a kind of more sensible medium to talk about guitars, because of course you could see and hear moving pictures, right? It sounds really obvious to say it now, but back when the internet was just sort of getting going, remember there was no broadband,
Right.
YouTube really wasn't a thing, back when magazines started engaging with it. And I just got more and more interested in video, and less interested in being this massive generalist. On a guitar magazine, you have to cover everything.
Right.
And I was discovering as I got older that my interests were actually fairly narrow, and I sort of wanted to focus in on that. And then concurrently, Dan and I had become friends via the gig rig, and we just said, why don't we, whenever we would chat, we would talk about guitars and pedals and amps and tone and stuff.
Yeah, anyway. And then why don't put it on a video and have people watching that? And this is exactly what you're doing. And this is so natural, and this is so, it feels like we know each other. Of course, I know you and Dan, but most people watching you, they don't know you in person, but it feels like they know you. I mean, it's like, honest reactions. It's two guys having a deep conversation about pedals and amps and guitars and whatever impedance and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you must get it as well. People walk up to you in the street, they give you a hug.
Yeah.
Well, pre-COVID, they gave you a hug, and they sort of step back and they say, "Oh, you don't know me, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't, but I know how you know me, and that makes us friends, and it's all good,
Yeah, yeah. So I discovered. I mean, I've been doing videos also in the past, but when the pandemic started, I had no trade shows to go on. I had no clinics in stores. I had, I couldn't make the stupid myself out in public, So I thought, switch on a camera and do it, on YouTube finally. And actually, I find it a very satisfying thing to do, because with me being in my studio, I have the access to all the stuff I'm talking about. I can go next door and grab another guitar and grab another pedal and grab another amp, and in a music store, sometimes I grab another guitar, but then I'm talking about something that is not there. And, I have probably more guitars than a regular music store, at least in the direction I'm talking about, So, yeah, that's thing. And here, today's episode, of course, is episode 61, and I thought, hey, I have a 61 Strat, everybody knows, 1961, 61. Why not doing an episode about 61 Strats? And then, of course, Strats in general. And then watching your last episode on Strats, came to mind, and I said, you know what? I call up Mick and see if he's into that. And you said, of course, yeah, cool. So my question to you first is, why should have any guitar player a Strat in his arsenal? What is the thing about a Strat for you?
It's hard to separate the history of playing it
Yeah.
and all the kind of the history we have with it from trying to see it, you know, new and cold again. But I think, you know, like all classic guitars, it requires you to engage with it in a unique way.
Sure.
And if you come from a different style of guitar and you try and play the Strat in the same way that you would that other guitar, it just doesn't work. And I think vice versa. So for me, the Strat is maybe the most dynamic of all electric guitars.
I agree.
Because
besides the Telecaster.
Yeah, and the Tele is dynamic in a different way.
Yeah.
But I think the thing I love about Strats is you can just keep pushing them. You know, most people who are into guitars that aren't Strats, whether it's Teles or Les Pauls or something with humbuckers, something that you might think is more powerful, I think are confused by Strats because you plug it in and it sounds weak and it sounds thin. But actually, if you're lucky enough to, you know this better than anybody, if you're lucky enough to be able to play that thing really loud very regularly, there comes with that a sense of dynamic range and of speaking voice in that guitar that is so huge. And it doesn't matter how much more gain you pile on, how many more watts you pile on, you know, what the mix is like, that the Strat just keeps its poise and it stays clear. I mean, I always think of Ritchie Blackmore or Yngwie Malmsteen in their most classic days, you know, just so much crazy gain and yet clarity.
Right. Yeah, and this is also my thing. I discovered the Strat for myself, and it was the most versatile instrument of them all. So my solution was, I played only one guitar and I do all the rest with pedals or amps. So the versatility that I needed for touring on live gigs was done by the electronic side, not by the guitar itself. So I can mimic a lot of guitars knowing that I never get a real Les Paul tone out of a Strat and a real whatever Tele tone, but I can deliver what is needed to do the job with one guitar. And to me, that felt always great to have that one guitar in my hand, not having a cold guitar in the middle of the set that is probably out of tune, or, you know. So if you have one guitar from the beginning to the end, that's a perfect condition for me, because then I can even connect better to the instrument during the night. And that was always my reference point.
I think that's so interesting, because one topic that comes up every now and again on that pedal show is, if you look back through history, you know, the great players usually played one guitar. Fair enough, they may have changed guitars during their career. So, you know, famously Clapton went from the Tele and the Yardbirds to the Les Paul and John Mayall to SGs and 335s and Cream, and then to Strats in his more solo stuff. So he made changes throughout the years, and they defined his sound in that time. But in that time, it was pretty much one style of guitar. And I think, you know, those of us who are guitar freaks, you know, I as much as I love Strats, to not have a 335, a Tele and a Les Paul sat there in the rack would feel completely weird. But I do think it kind of maybe, you know, if your job is to be like somebody who's versatile, who's called on to do different things, then maybe you need those guitars.
Right.
But as an artist, as somebody who expresses through writing and performing, I just wonder if that focus on one instrument in the way that you've done it is in the end going to make you sound more like you, because you're forced into that limitation being the source of creativity, perhaps, is the way I would put it.
I totally agree on that. And it's like, you know, there's two mindsets. There are people that always ask for the easy way. It's like, okay, I want that kind of quarter-pounder humbucker to get my gain. You know, I have the hardest pick. If I need gain, okay, I crank up on the amp, but I dig in harder. And doing that challenges me as a person, as a player. And that gives me the extra level, because I have to fight for what I want. You know, if it's given to me for free, you know, I'm boring. I'm a boring old fart, you know. But, you know, if I have to stay active and, you know, put in what is well, what I want to achieve, and it comes from me. It comes from me, the person. It's my personal challenge. I mean, this is why people that climb mountains or whatever, do crazy stuff, have challenges, are still kind of more alive and young. And my heroes have that kind of attitude. I mean, even the Jeff Beck at his age of, well, like in a day, 77, you know, he is still a young-minded man, you know, to me, you know, and that's, that's, yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing, as a concept in life, in general, you know. And of course it speaks in the music, in the limitation. Yeah, my first album I called The Beauty of Simplicity, because when I listened to all my shit and many notes, I thought the simple moments on that record were the most beautiful ones. So what's the title, you know? And so I learned it by doing it, you know? Yeah, cool. Being a Strat player yourself, Mick, you found your blue one, and this has been with you for many, many years. So what makes this guitar so special to you? Why do you chosen this one and not so many others? Is it there?
Isn't it funny?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's such a funny thing. You know, I played probably not as many Strats as you, but I have played hundreds and hundreds. New ones, old ones, in between, ones with different, you know, modern features, ones with vintage features. Just so many over the years. Of course, working on a guitar magazine and being in a privileged enough position to meet guys like you, travel all around the world, you know, you do get to play a lot of Strats. And I've played so many Strats that are so much better than this guitar, that sound better, that look better, that maybe I prefer the shape of the neck, you know.
Yeah.
But what it is with this guitar, I bought it used. I walked into Charlie Chandler's Guitar Experience in London one day, in Hampton Wick, and I don't quite know why. I had a Sonic Blue Strat in my head. It might be because one of the first relics we ever put on the cover of Guitarist magazine was a Sonic Blue relic, and I think I remember that guitar and it haunts me. Anyway, I had a Sonic Blue one in my head. I walked into Charlie's. I can't remember what we were doing. We were doing some work, and I saw it there. And it was second-hand, and it was one of the Beatles. They did a limited run of Beatles Strats because John and George were given, I think they were 62 Strats, and they were given them in 1964. And George's turned into Rocky, the painted one, as you know.
Yeah.
And John's was lost to the ether. But they were these Sonic Blue Strats. Anyway, Andy Babiuk did a really great book called The Beatles Gear Book. And Backbeat Books published it, and on the back of that, Fender released, I don't know how many it was, it may have been 50, it might have been 100, of these American vintage, thin skin Beatles reissue Strats. Now, I didn't know any of that at the time. All I saw was a Sonic Blue 62 style Strat. Picked it up, played it, and did what I always do on guitar.
Shrang.
And I said, yeah, I'll have that. How much is that, please? And I think it was £800. So, and then what happens? You know, you do a few hundred gigs, and it just becomes your guitar. And despite all the other Strats I played over the years, with one exception, which we'll talk about soon, I've never loved a Strat enough to drop whatever it might be, you know, like $2.5 grand for a normal custom shop or $5 grand for a Masterbuilt. I don't feel like any of those have had
that value
enough to drag me away from this guitar, because I'm so bonded with it. And the truth is, it's just a really normal average Strat. There's nothing particularly special about it.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. If you find a guitar that you connect to, no matter what price it is, buy that guitar or keep that guitar. I mean, this is about the music thing. For me, I always think if a guitar talks to me and if there's music in for me, if I can feel that, is it like, oh, the song is there, you know, I just have to work it to get it out. That's inspiration. And of course, you have your test if it's open, you know, if the strings are ringing open. And for me, there's a certain kind of twanginess. And then I'm also always curious on that the bridge pickup has in the twang an James Bond theme kind, and not an you know, that this hurts. So I like to have the high end, but I like to have a foundation of the vocal sound of an O more than an A or E. You know, that's my criteria. And I can tell right away if a guitar has that or not.
No, I'm totally going to listen for that now. I've never been that scientific about it. It's always been a resonance thing for me, like when I pick the guitar up, and if it feels right in the hands. I mean, the irony of all of this is that I've modified this guitar so much over the years, you know, with pickups and bridges and all of that. There is an argument to say that it's really only the body and the neck wood that's original. You know, it's been refretted, all of that, but. Yeah, I can't really explain it other than maybe the hours in mean that when you come to and if you're lucky enough to achieve that flow from time to time, the minute the brain gets involved again is the minute you start playing not as well and you don't feel it as much. And for me that's why gear matters, because gear doesn't necessarily make the flow any better, but if you're unhappy with the gear, it will stop the flow. So that's, I can't explain it any other way than that, really. But then, of course, then I start playing a few old ones, and all of a sudden my head is turned, and I'm like, okay, there is something much better over there.
Yeah, I mean, I know the story that you had hands on a 61 Strat for a while, and you've been deeply impressed about that one. So what do you like about that guitar?
Well, if it's okay, I'll briefly tell you the story of how it came to be.
Sure, we got time.
Great. Well, a very nice guy called Simon Green got in touch with me, and Simon's dad he's retired. He was a songwriter and session musician, and he'd written some hits over the years. Beautiful Sunday was his big hit, under the name of Daniel Boone was his stage name. And he also wrote the Chelsea Football Club song "Blue Is the Colour." So Daniel Boone, as his stage name was touring and, you know, successful music career, and he retired and he gave the guitar to his son Simon. He bought the guitar new in '61.
Fuck, yeah.
And Simon sent me a load of pictures. Simon sent me a load of pictures down the years, and you can tell it's this guitar because it's got this slightly unusual dark bit of stripe through the face of the headstock, through here. And so you see the old pictures of it, and you can tell it's that guitar because it's a really unusual mark. Anyway, he gave it to Simon, and by that time Daniel had stripped the guitar because it had got so beaten up over the years, you know, toured all over the world, and he'd stripped it so it was natural. Either when Simon got it or just before, they had it refinished really nice in its original sunburst. Really nice job. Just a really nice 3-color sunburst, typical of that period, 61. And Simon got in touch with me and he said, look, I don't really love this guitar. Simon likes more modern guitars with flatter fingerboard radiuses and, you know, some other features that he likes. And he said, and I watch you on that pedal show, you know, I like that pedal show, and I see you struggling week in, week out, desperately wanting a vintage Strat. So if you want to borrow it, you can sort of borrow it, you know, for ages. And as long as you don't break it, sell it, set it on fire, you know, then have the guitar and use it.
Oh, that's very kind, very kind.
It's so, and I went back to him and I said, wow, that is, you know, impossibly kind. A little bit of self-preservation kicked in, and I said, well, I really would love to, but if I fall in love with this guitar, it's going to be a heartbreak when it goes back. And he said, oh, well, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. You know, why don't you just have it for a few weeks and see what happened? And then almost 2 years went by.
Yeah.
And so I got to know it really well. And he was surprised at my reaction. So, sorry, eventually to your actual question, the guitar has a combination of the most incredible clarity. It has unbelievable balance.
Right.
Now, in most modern Strats I play, they're either kind of what you were saying earlier. They're either a bit kind of sharp or twangy on the bridge pickup, or the neck pickup's a bit woofy, or I don't know, something just isn't
right.
But this thing, it just has this really unusual balance. Right across all three pickups. I never use the middle pickup on any of my Strats. I use it all the time on that 61. And I can't explain it. You know, acoustically, it has a completely different resonance to my other guitars, even though it's a refin. And when I first got it, I was kind of super cool about it. And Dan said that I was hilarious because I wouldn't show any emotion about the guitar. And I was playing it, and I felt like I was playing a little bit better than I might otherwise play, which could be psychosomatic.
Of course, always. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, if it works, it works,
exactly,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then what started to happen was Dan was like, that guitar really does sound amazing. And I was like, come on, it's just another Strat, don't be silly. Simon, our camera guy and edit guy, who is really cynical about guitars but loves guitars, he's like, that guitar really does sound good. And then the day that it really smacked me in the face, I mean, I knew this by this point, I just didn't want to be too gushing about it. Fraser's this young kid. He's a Tonmeister graduate in audio production. Nothing impresses Fraser, literally nothing. You know, he's doing a session with Dizzy Rascal or somebody, nothing impresses him. And he's like, wow, that's the best electric guitar I've ever heard. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'll give in. I do absolutely adore this guitar. And what's weird about that is that it doesn't have, you know, so for example, one mod I know we both like is to put the bridge pickup on, you know, have a tone pot available to the bridge pickup. Doesn't have that. I don't feel like I need it. And it's just a load of things that I can't really explain.
Okay, I had a similar story with a 57 Les Paul, like a gold top, that belongs to a collector's friend of mine. And it's like, I was shocked. I mean, you know, and by now I have I would say like a rip off that guitar. I bought a 68 Les Paul and I converted that to that. And my friend Andreas Kloppmann, who does pickups, I forced him through, I don't know how many, you have Kloppmanns as well, see, cool. And I forced Andreas through, I don't know how many rounds to get closer to the original sound of that 57. And he already had a beautiful 58 set or whatever, but I wanted to get that particular guitar's character as much as possible in my hands, because similar story, I was playing that guitar from the collector, and yeah, this guitar talked to me, and it's very rare that a Les Paul talks to me. But finally, I became friends not only with that guitar, I also became kind of emotionally connected to my copy of that guitar, because they kind of, and now I can play my guitar and have that flow. And that's when I still have the other guitar, I can discover a few little things and a little magic here and there, but I'm in the zone where my guitar is so inspiring to me that I forget if it's that guitar or that guitar. And that's, I think, all this loops and all this investigations and another set of pickups and another bridge here and another thing. And by the way, I've done this also on Stratocasters. to copy my 61 Strat. I have a 60 original Fender neck with combined it with different bodies, with original plates, with original Fender pickups, and actually I couldn't copy that guitar. I came close, and of course Klopman, I forced him to do pickups for that guitar to be, you know, I know him for maybe 30 years, whatever. And by the way, this middle pickup in this guitar is a reverse wound, reverse polarity pickup that I use, so my in-between positions are quiet, you know, like a modern Strat. On the original Strats, all three pickups would be the same polarity. And as we all know, there is a slight loss of, how would you say, chunkiness in the tone. But I'm a live gigging guy, so, you know, having that safe position of no hum is a saver for me. And this was the first thing I challenged Andreas with the reverse wound middle pickup on this. This is still done on a, I think, a Squier GV pickup, bobbin kind of thing, you know, original. By now he's doing his own thing, but it's still in this guitar up until this day. Yeah, and I've done things like changing all the saddles, putting on like G strings on every 6 strings with just the same string, and then changing the saddles just to listen to the different, you know, raw vintage, real original Fender stuff, Trevor Wilkinson material and all that, and just see what that affects and what the block material does and what the springs are doing. And you've been through all of that. I think.
Well, I've been through some of it. I've never done the saddles thing. What did you learn about saddles?
I learned that it's a critical thing because, well, the first hard but honest truth is the vintage Fender saddles are still the best. And there is modern stuff like titanium that has a lot of O, which I like, but it's too clean somehow. It is too clean. This makes this guitar a PRS feel to me, and so it's not that rough character of a Strat. So what I learned about saddles, and the funny thing is, the cheap saddles of Trevor Wilkinson vintage guitar were the second best, and it wasn't the raw vintage from, you know, boutique priced good saddles, very dynamic, but they were too, the raw vintage were too overpresent. Something wasn't wrong. So I want that balance and that present. And then in the end, we even tried to compensate stuff that was overpresent with heating it up, like getting it glow red, you know, and, you know, all that stuff affects the tone. And conclusion for me, the original vintage saddles is a key component to the tone. It's all 1% here and another 3% there, and it sums up. You can't say if you have the right saddle, nothing else matters. No, you have to have that and that and that and so on. So it's a very complex kind of thing, but well, it does matter if you know what you want, and if what you're talking about is balance, and it's like I can go and have a go on the neck pickup, and if the clarity is there and the Richie Blackmore style is there, and then I go to the bridge pickup, and if this isn't piercing my ears, then something is right, and you know, and that gives you the confidence of I'm not worried to play that guitar. Then I can dig in harder or softer or whatever. I can play with the tone. So that puts you in the comfort zone, in your comfort zone. And that's, to me, the magic about, yeah, the right instrument for you. I mean, in general. And here's my question to you. 61, did you ever try other years like 62, 64, is 59? I mean, I know you like Stevie Ray and others, but is there a particular thing with the 61? Did you play several 61s?
Yeah, no, I've, in terms of guitars that I've had any length of time with or done gigs with,
yeah,
you know, there's probably only 3 or 4,
right,
to be honest. Having sat down and played them in, you know, guitar stores or friends' guitars, then you're probably talking, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 old ones.
yeah,
And I think my general observation would be that, you know, and again, this is really general. So, as you know, from 60 through 61, the necks got a little bigger, and then into 62 they got bigger, and 63 again.
yeah.
In general, because, you know, it's always important to say that, I think, because, you know, they didn't have CNC machines then. It was some dude shaping the neck, right? Yeah. And I definitely, there are things I really like about the 62s, 63s that get a bit chunkier in terms of the feel of the neck. I had a 60 for a little while, a red refinish Candy Apple 60, which is slightly odd, but anyway, it was another refin, had that for a little while, and that neck was too small for me. I could have bought that guitar at a pretty decent price, but the neck was just too small and I didn't get on with it. But it's really hard to draw any conclusions from my relatively limited experience, because when I started looking for one, I'd play, what did I play one day? Like a original Fiesta, maybe a 62. And that thing was bright and aggressive and really in your face. And yet nothing, you know, it didn't have any rewinds or anything like that. Everything was original and normal. And then I might play, the 60 was much softer sounding. And, you know, we know that the pickups were the same in those guitars pretty much, or very similar anyway. And yet the guitar sounded really different. So trying to draw very many conclusions about years, I think, is tough. One thing I realized I really do like is when they went to the round lamb board, and then that first, and then I really quite like some of the mid-60s grey bottom pickups with the enamel wire. Hand on heart, I prefer the slab board, you know, Formvar wire, and like the classic 59 to 63 or 59 to 62 slab board formula. Hand on heart, that's where I begin. But there is something I really, really, really like about those later 64, 65, and then, you know, on to the, by the time it gets to 68 and the Jimmy Strat, and the kind of thing that Mike Landau plays, you know. What I'm saying is, people think of vintage Strats, you know, vintage rosewood board Strats as the same thing, and that between that 59 to 60, well, let's say 66 period, they changed
a lot,
so much,
yes,
so much.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, what about you, Thomas? Because you've probably played more than I have, and you've certainly done more gigs than I have. Have you gone, you know, 60, 62, 63, but always come back to your 61? Is there something about it for you?
Yeah, kind of. Well, you know, the one thing is, since I play my 61 since I was 17, there's so many guys that came to me, you know, like, I got a 61 as well, or I have a vintage Strat, do you want to play mine? So, you know, back in the days where most people were playing like Ibanez's and Steve Weiss, whatever, humbucker load, I was playing that vintage kind of thing. So I was the outsider back then. But then, you know, the fans of the vintage instruments connected to me, and I had many vintage guitars from people in my hands. And well, let's put it that way. I have a few instruments from a couple of different years from this holy grail period, 59 to 66, in my hands that were magic. I played a few, and I know what you mean about the gray bottom pickups, because this is my 64, and it has that.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. Um, by the way, I bought that guitar from a female singer from Luxembourg. The father played that, so one owner only. And she needed some money. This goes back a couple of years. And I bought, and this has had even everything original, three-way switch, um, original frets. I changed the frets, or Klopman changed the frets for me, so I could play that guitar. But the point is, that's a great guitar, and it has a certain character. I know even better ones than these. Unfortunately, I can't buy them because they belong to people.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's the story. Me personally, the 61 is the magic year, and I didn't know that in the early days when I bought that guitar. This was cheaper than a 64. This is why I bought a 61 Strat back in the day when I was 17, you know. So it was 2,300 Deutschmarks because I made a magic move in my deal. The guy asked for 3,200 and I just flipped the two numbers around and said, that's the money I have. Deal done. You know? Okay, and the guy needed the money, so I went home with that guitar for that money, you know, and
Oh man, that's cool.
and for decades I was the same like you. No guitar more than whatever 2,000 Deutschmarks or later euros. This was my price. It's like, are you crazy? I mean, I was offered a 59 Les Paul at the same age for 10,000 Deutschmarks. Today, I thought, man, if I had that money, I should have bought it because that guitar was brilliant. I could tell that even at the age of 17, but I didn't have the money, and so I did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, this is how it is. But there is a magic in 61 for me personally because I do like a little bit thinner necks. They shouldn't be super skinny. I agree. Mine is on the edge of being too skinny, but once you move up to like the 5th fret, it's all good. I got used to it, so I'm not questioning anymore. Forget it, you know. And I have the frets pretty high. I use 6105 Dunlop, so they're a bit higher, and this is how I can live with it. But what about? For me, it's kind of later. I found out Gary Moore's red one was a 61, correct?
Yeah.
And Rory,
I believe so.
yeah, this is what I heard, you know. And then the same, like Rory Gallagher's is also 61, right? And these are
Yeah, I mean, slightly closer to home. I know yeah, our mutual friend Matt Schofield. You know, his is a 61, and I played that guitar quite a lot. That's a really nice guitar. It's had a lot of mods done to it, but it's a really, really lovely guitar.
Yeah. For me, the thing about mods is not an issue as long as the guitar has the character. I'm a sound guy, you know. It's not a collector aspect for me. And of course, I find it crazy to pay too much money for an instrument just because it's a collectible item. You know, I mean, we are players, we want to play, and you know, how do you feel when you go on stage with whatever, your 59 Les Paul and you knock it just because you want to have a sip of beer and then, you know, I mean, it's no realistic thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know when I started sort of seriously, having had the 61, I made the decision that I was going to buy one. You know,
Yeah.
I said to Simon that should he ever want to sell that guitar, I would be very grateful to have first refusal, and he said that he would do that, and he wants that guitar to go to somebody who will play it rather than into some collection where
Yeah.
it'll never be played. But I also talked to Mike Long at ATB, and I said, look, you know, I am looking for a Strat, and I want one that has had some work done because that brings the price down to something attainable, and it means that I can do the work on it that I want to do. And unfortunately, it seems like those are the guitars that everyone wants now. And the prices of Strats at the moment is insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. I think he's got a 64 at the moment, like almost mint, and it's £25,000.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know, that's just too much.
Yeah.
I personally think it's too much money.
Yeah, yeah, I
But
totally
if
agree. Yeah.
you know, some banker gets paid a huge bonus and they want to buy it, then I guess that's what it's worth. But
Yeah, this is
there's a little bit of my heart that breaks when
yeah
those guitars aren't being
played.
played, which isn't, you know, it isn't to say that somebody doesn't deserve to own it or they shouldn't own it, but I want to own it.
Always feel the same. I mean, the good thing is about a few collectors friends that I have, they at least let me play it, which is great.
Yeah.
So of course, it's always kind of a thing that is a bit tempting, and it makes you feel happy and sad at the same time. I mean, it makes you feel happy when you go and play it, and it makes you feel sad on the way home when you don't have that baby with you, you know?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this is how it is. And about, you know, all the Strat prices, that's crazy. And the other day I was watching an episode of somebody that did investment and said, you know, I'm investing in guitars. Hey man, no, buy other stuff. Don't do it on Strats, please. But anyway, last thing I would like to talk, when I was watching your episode on the Strats about the setup, I'm the guy who has the floating bridge all the time. I can do bend up on the G string for like a minor third, and then I have a, you know, like a two half notes on the B string and a semitone on the high. That's my setup, and I know you have them kind of connected to the wood of the body, right?
Yeah. It's really funny because listening back to that video, now I know that there's two different guitars, different pickups and all of that, but they're not a million miles away, these guitars, from one another. And I actually preferred the sound of the black one, where the bridge was floating. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation with Ron Ellis, who actually makes my favorite Strat pickups, and he was saying to me, you know, get that bridge up because it sounds like a Strat when the bridge is up, and it sounds not like a Strat when the bridge is on the body. And I was like, do you know, there is something in that. I like the real sledgehammer Strat sound, you know, the E flat, Stevie Ray. But there is an argument to say that it doesn't sound like a Strat anymore. You know, the Strat is how you have it, with it floating a bit.
Here's one comment that when I watched the whole thing. The benefit of having it connected to the wood is, you know, more balls, all that kind of element. But it gets thinner when the plate is free floating, and that gives you more air. And that's a thing I found out makes it more versatile for me, okay, in my zone. So I know the benefit of your setup, and that makes sense if you are totally Stevie Ray for me, and it has that kind of bigger tone, you know, it's more like a V8 engine American style, you know, but for me a little less of that and a bit more focused puts it in a center where I can go somewhere. That's a matter of taste, but that's the comment that I wanted to give you while watching your episode. You know, it's like you watch these videos and I said, yeah, Mick, I have to tell you. Okay, now we have the chance.
But do you know what, Thomas? I think I'm approaching a point where I want to agree with you, because as I've got older, I've become less interested in that hammering the crap out of the guitar all the time thing. Don't get me wrong, you know, Stevie Ray is in my heart, and he will always be in there. But he was Stevie Ray, and I am not Stevie Ray. And as the years have gone on, you know, I've got more interested in other guitar players whose dynamic range is wider, whose stylistic approach is wider. You know, just to pick a few out of the ether, Michael Landau, Jeff Beck. You know, to talk about classic era players, if you like, and you know, the people who we would probably both count as heroes.
Right.
And my playing has improved a little bit over the years, and my touch on the guitar has improved a little bit over the years, where I think I actually don't really require that sledgehammer in the same way that I used to. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't keep an E-flat Strat there with the bridge decked, because that is a sound, right?
Sure.
And you just can't get away from it.
Right.
But actually having made the video and going on this whole journey of playing old ones and just learning a bit more, because that's the thing, you know, I got my first Strat when I was 14 years old. I'm now 47 years old. It's been that long asking these questions, and I'm still learning stuff. You know, we have this conversation and I learned something from you. I mean, I'm sure I hope you laughed when you watched the video, because I rather suspect I said a few things in that video, Thomas, that you've told me over the years. and like with all knowledge, you sort of think you own the knowledge, don't you? Because you think you probably came up with it. But
hey, who cares?
People have told you stuff over the years and you just take it in.
Hey, I'm so happy if, I mean, I talk stuff that I learn from other people. Of course, you know, I'm like a sponge that learns from you guys also, you know, and there are things that we both kind of share, and then there are things we kind of maybe see differently, which is also nice and great. And of course, if you learn something from me, this makes me proud, you know. And I mean, I remember you playing kind of chords, maybe I played, you know, I have, when I think about Mick Taylor, he played that tasty chord, and you know, so it's all good, you know. And I think we are now old enough that there's no ego involved anymore. It's just beautiful, you know. And that's and you have your connections and the people and your experiences. I've got mine, and it's a beauty to share that. And that's, I mean, now finally also great to do this, like on live streams and stuff, but actually I'm looking forward for meeting in person and having a beer with you then, and you know, them all. I think,
yeah, I tell you, you know, any time that is a wonderful thing to do, but especially after this time that we've just had, those moments will be all the more precious to hang around and talk guitars. Man, it's so cool.
If you, I mean, I don't know if you are making it for the next NAMM show in January. I already booked my stuff there, so I'm there. That's
cool.
That's not another chance. If not, I come to the UK and I chase you for that beer.
It would be great. Yeah. Thomas, I've got a couple of questions about your two Strats.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just something I was reading about today. So I've been trying to get my head around the various changes that happened. So your white one is a 61.
Yeah.
Do you know which month it is?
Wait a minute. I can give you the serial number. Maybe you'll find out. So let me read the numbers. Oh, they are pretty scratchy. 60966.
60966. Okay, that's really interesting. That is within. Let's see, that's within 800 guitars of the 61 that I had. Now, I know that the plates weren't necessarily sequential.
Okay, yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
So that's going to put that guitar probably April or May, I would have thought. April, maybe.
The funny thing is, I'm not a collector, so I just play the thing and I know it's a 61. I saw the neck. It's... but I maybe did a photo once, but I have to look back, you know. Usually I give a fuck about...
So my question actually isn't about that, it's about patent numbers. Is there one patent number on your headstock?
It is...
Or is it worn off?
It's kind of worn off, but I think it's 2. It's like... Wait a minute, it's Fender Stratocaster, and then there is with something like synchronized tremolo. And then it's stretched, and I see another one. So I guess there's 2. One is there, and the other one might be there.
1 or 2, yeah. Because they, yeah, I'd have to have a look. And the 64.
Yeah.
So in 64, they changed the logo, right, to the spaghetti logo, to the
bigger one. Yeah, that's
the transition logo.
And this is
what I'm trying to work out. Yeah, what I'm trying to work out is if all the spaghetti logos have 3 patent numbers and all the transition logos have 4.
1, 2. Wait a minute. This is clean headstock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this has 4. This has 4, definitely.
And that's the blockier logo.
That's the block logo, the big one.
Great.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, good. If that helps you, fine.
It does.
Okay, Mr.
Oh man, it's so nerdy.
Yeah.
It's so nerdy. But yeah, that the serial number of that 61 that I had is 59469. So it's
close.
really close to yours.
Yeah. They're good.
And let's say that the neck plates weren't sequential.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They just
okay,
picked them out of
yeah,
the bin, but
yeah.
close enough.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay.
fascinating.
Yeah. Any other questions? Last question.
No, and just so does that one have the grey bottom plain enamel pickups?
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has gray bottoms. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
second half of 64, having
Yeah.
gray bottoms, and the other one has black bottoms.
The black bottoms,
Yeah.
yeah. And does it sound kind of chimier and twangier, or
No, this sounds, I would say, woodier, and it has a the 61 has more balls, has a bit more aggression
yeah,
on tap,
Yeah.
and you can dig in and get that alive. This one is always a little bit more polite and a bit broader in a way. This is how I would describe it.
Okay.
It's also a great guitar, and it's also balanced, but it's like to be myself, which means sometimes I kick some ass. The 61 is my guitar. It's like, okay guys,
that's the guitar. Yeah,
no
yeah,
prisoners, but I can also play very, very gentle with it, you know, and it has that range, and it has that perfect thing for in your face and the rest too. but it's there. It's like a car that has 200 horsepower, not 58, you know.
I think that takes us back to the top of the conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is the thing. And I speak to a lot of people that have vintage Strats and have had modern ones made
Right.
that are exactly like it, or have been through many new ones. And whether it is slightly psychosomatic or not, the result is the same.
Yeah.
You feel more connected
Yeah.
to that old guitar, and there is this indefinable characteristic. And it's kind of, I mean, I can remember it being a sort of crestfallen realization,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh no, I genuinely don't have the money to get into that. So I've just got to wait until one comes along in a fortuitous situation. And it's like, that may never happen, you know, because, sorry, I don't appreciate this is going on long, but when I started work on Guitarist magazine in 1996, I think it was, in the back of the reader's ads there, you could pick up a 62 refin for about £5,000. 4 to 5, and actually sometimes less than that, 3.5 if it was doggy.
Right.
And original ones were, you know, non-refins battered were sort of 6, 7 maybe.
Yeah. Same here in Germany.
Maybe even a bit less than that. And then for ages they didn't really get any more expensive.
Yeah.
They were, you could still pick them up for a good 5 years after that.
Yeah.
And then it went crazy.
Yeah.
And now it's crazy.
Yeah, don't do it unless you have the one chance for your one lifetime guitar. But but you know what you're doing. You're old enough and you are experienced enough, and you know what you're doing, man. That's cool. Hey, we could talk for hours, which we should do. We have probably some other things we also can talk about, maybe in the future, whatever. But I'm really looking forward, meeting you again. Soon in person would be one of the best ways to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thomas, it's great. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's so cool. I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Okay, yeah. Mick, thanks for being here, and I have to say I love the stuff that you are doing. You know, I mean, you and then and the pedal show, and I already love the stuff that you did by yourself. But the pedal show is, you know that I told you before. I watched a lot of your episodes. I found it very entertaining, and yeah, it feels home. It feels so great. So hey, carry on, guys. Yeah. See you soon.
Thanks so much, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey,
Okay,
cheers. Bye.
bye.